Around the world, women are on average shorter than men. Purely biological evidence suggests that it should be the opposite, which is that women should be larger than males. Females can benefit from large fat reserves, and the planet's biggest creature is not just a blue whale, but a female blue whale. If women generally were larger, the risks associated with childbirth would decrease. In many developing countries, complications during childbirth is the most common cause of death among women, and those who suffer are small-sized women with small pelvises, which in turn are more common when there is malnutrition. Boys get more food. New theory suggests that the imbalance of power and discrimination underlie the height differences. According to several researchers, we unconsciously give boys more food than girls, making the height differences between the sexes persist over the generations. We are so accustomed to men being taller than women that most of us hardly reflect on why this is the case. But upon reflection, is the difference in height but on reflection, the difference in height is somewhat of a mystery. This scientific documentary, Therefore Women Are Shorter Than Men, appears in the science world tonight, and it examines a range of explanatory models. Explanations differ. Girls are vulnerable. According to several anthropologists, it could be thousands of years of discrimination that underlies the difference in size between males and females. It could also mean that in the long run, there are opportunities for women to grow up and might even become taller than men. One thing I would do when talking about race differences is I would anchor them, as I would make arguments anchored in other kinds of differences. For example, gender differences. And I would show that that a given argument saying that race differences are environmental, that the same exact reasoning could be used to argue that gender differences in a given trait are environmental, when obviously gender differences are overwhelmingly biological. But what we're seeing here is this anchor being destroyed, and the effects of a more holistic system of for lack of a better term, biology denial, is that you cannot reference other standards. Say, the category of race, for example. We can look at other species and look at categories within other species, breeds. Okay, and so race denial is hampered by the fact that in other species it is widely recognized that there are subspecies. In fact, subspecies with genetic distances comparable to the subspecies within humans. But if you begin to deny subspecies in other species, well, then suddenly it becomes harder because you can't anchor it in that way. You can't say, hey, wait a minute. You deny subspeciation in humans, but if we look at breeds of coyotes, well, the FST distances are about the same there. And it's widely recognized that there are subspecies of coyotes or various other mammals. But if you deny subspecies of coyotes, well, then suddenly you can't anchor it in that way, right? You can't basically you don't have an ear in reality to relate to, right? And so it makes it all that much easier to deny race, and that's what this biology denial and other things does. It makes it harder to argue for an evolutionary standpoint in human races because you can't anchor it on those other things, those other near analogs.